In the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, far from any major continent, lies one of the most mysterious and surprisingly wealthy territories on Earth. It's linked to legends, shrouded in mystery, and yet, at the same time, it's home to pastel-colored mansions, global insurance giants, and some of the highest living standards on the planet. You've heard of the Bermuda Triangle, right? But what about Bermuda itself? Not many people talk about the actual island at the heart of the myth. Today, we're taking a deep dive into this tiny, fascinating territory, from its bizarre geography and colonial history to its reputation as a tax haven and one of the world's most expensive places to live. Let's jump in. The Bermuda Triangle. Let's start with the part everyone has heard of, the Bermuda Triangle. This infamous region in the western North Atlantic stretches roughly between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. It's become a legendary zone where ships and aircraft have mysteriously vanished, never to be seen again. Over the years, countless theories have popped up, from massive rogue waves and magnetic anomalies to methane gas eruptions and, yes, even aliens or time warps. While science has offered plenty of rational explanations, one eerie fact remains. This area does mess with compasses. Unlike most places where magnetic compasses point to magnetic north, in the Bermuda Triangle they can sometimes point to true north, a subtle but significant difference that can lead to navigation errors. But myths aside, there's an actual island at the center of this triangle, and it's far more real and way more interesting than the legends suggest. Where is Bermuda exactly? So, where is Bermuda? Well, it's not in the Caribbean, despite what many people think. Bermuda is actually located about 1,000 kilometers, or 600 miles east of North Carolina, floating all by itself in the middle of the ocean. The nearest Caribbean island? Still over 1,200 kilometers away. It's so isolated, it seems like someone just dropped a chunk of tropical paradise into the Atlantic and left it there. And despite its remote location, Bermuda is anything but forgotten. It's a thriving, self-governing territory that answers, at least officially, to the British Crown. Is Bermuda a country? So, is Bermuda actually a country? Well, not quite. It's what's known as a British overseas territory. That means it's kind of self-governing. It has its own parliament, its own laws, even its own currency. But when it comes to things like foreign policy and military defense, that's still handled by the United Kingdom. Bermuda flies the Union Jack and recognizes the British monarch as head of state, so technically it's under the crown. But don't expect a British experience when you land. Bermuda has its own rhythm. Caribbean flair meets Atlantic charm with pastel houses, warm beaches, and a culture that's uniquely its own. So, no, it's not a country, but it's definitely not just British either. A tiny yet densely packed island. In terms of size, Bermuda is tiny, only about 54 square kilometers. To put that into perspective, it's smaller than Disney World. If it were a country, it would be among the top 5 smallest nations on Earth. Just bigger than Tuvalu, but smaller than San Marino. And yet, it's home to around 65,000 people, making it one of the most densely populated territories on the planet. Bermuda is actually an archipelago of around 138 islands, but most people live on just 7 of the main islands, which are all connected by bridges and causeways. From above, the whole territory looks like a giant fishhook or a curved chain of emeralds in the sea. One of the richest places on Earth. Here's where things get really interesting. Despite its tiny size and isolation, Bermuda is incredibly wealthy. According to the World Bank and the United Nations, Bermuda consistently ranks as one of the top 5 richest places on Earth by GDP per capita, right up there with Luxembourg, Ireland, and Switzerland. So how did this little island become so rich? 2 words: finance and insurance. Over the years, Bermuda has developed into a global business hub, especially for reinsurance, a kind of insurance for insurance companies. And with no corporate income tax, it's no surprise that giant international firms have chosen to set up shop here. The territory doesn't rely on manufacturing or agriculture. It relies on its reputation, its stability, and its favorable tax laws. A tax haven or not. Bermuda often gets labeled as a tax haven, and in some ways it is. There's no income tax, no corporate tax, and no capital gains tax. Instead, the government collects revenue through things like import duties, payroll taxes, and hotel levies. This has attracted both wealthy individuals and major companies, especially in the finance and insurance sectors. But Bermuda insists it's not hiding anything. Its financial system is heavily regulated and transparent, and it often cooperates with international investigations. Still, it's easy to see why billionaires, hedge funds, and corporations love it here. The Bermuda dollar. If you ever find yourself lounging on the pink sand beaches of Bermuda, you might wonder, what kind of money do they use here? Well, Bermuda has its own currency, the Bermudian dollar, or BMD, but don't stress about conversions. It's locked to the US dollar at a perfect 1-to-1 rate. And here's the fun part. US dollars are accepted everywhere. Hotels, taxis, even those little roadside food shacks, they'll all take your greenbacks with no problem. Locals often use both currencies without even thinking about it, but be warned. If you pay in US cash, you might get your change in Bermudian bills, which you can't spend back home. So yeah, bring dollars, but maybe don't bring too many if you're planning to leave with a full wallet. Life on the island. Now, despite all the wealth, life in Bermuda isn't cheap. In fact, it's frequently ranked as one of the most expensive places on Earth to live. Nearly everything, food, fuel, furniture, has to be imported across thousands of kilometers of ocean. Combine that with high wages, strong demand, and limited space, and you've got sky-high prices. Housing in particular is wild. Multi-million-dollar homes are common, and even small apartments can cost a fortune. The capital city, Hamilton, is where you'll find government buildings, global banks, luxury shops, and yacht clubs, of course. Bermuda's architecture and culture, a world apart. Bermuda doesn't just feel different, it looks different too. Take a stroll through its towns and you'll see a unique blend of old-world charm and island flair. Picture quaint cottages with crisp white roofs, pastel walls in coral pink, seafoam green, and lemon yellow, all neatly lined along narrow, winding streets. But these rooftops aren't just for show, they're pure function. Made from local limestone and stepped-like stairs, they're built to capture rainwater, since Bermuda has no rivers or natural freshwater lakes. Every drop counts here, and those roofs are a brilliant example of island innovation. It's all about survival through smart design, keeping homes cool in the heat and stable during hurricane season. And then there's the culture. Bermudians speak English, but the accent? That's a mystery all its own. You'll catch hints of British formality, a little American twang, and the warm rhythm of the Caribbean, all rolled into one. It reflects the island's history and the people who have shaped it over centuries. So, whether you're admiring a house or chatting with a local, Bermuda feels like nowhere else on Earth. Familiar, yet entirely its own. A tropical yet stormy paradise. Bermuda might look like a Caribbean postcard, but it has its own unique climate. It sits in a transition zone between tropical and subtropical, which means hot, humid summers and mild winters. And yes, it's in the hurricane belt. Every few years, Bermuda gets hit by powerful storms. In 2003, Hurricane Fabian caused widespread damage and several deaths, one of the worst disasters in the island's recent history. Despite the storms, Bermuda remains a stunning paradise, famous for its pink sand beaches, turquoise waters, and lush green landscapes. The origin story. So how did the British end up here? Bermuda was first spotted by Spanish explorers in the early 1500s, but it wasn't settled until 1609 by accident. A ship called the Sea Venture, headed for the American colony of Jamestown, was wrecked on Bermuda's reefs during a storm. The survivors built a settlement that eventually became St. George's, the oldest continuously inhabited English town in the New World. Since then, Bermuda has remained under British control, though it came close to independence in a 1995 referendum. The vote failed, and Bermuda remains a British territory to this day. So there you have it. Bermuda, a tiny dot in the ocean, packed with history, mystery, luxury, and an identity all its own. It's one of the richest, most unique territories on Earth, and whether you're drawn to the legends of the Triangle or the lure of tax-free wealth, Bermuda is far more than just a name on a map. Would you live in a place like this? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments where we should explore next.